So thank you very much, Barbara, and good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Simone Pernician, and with this presentation from the Department of Computer Science at the University of Turin. And with this presentation, I'm going to show you GreatNector, which is the modeling tool that we develop in our department in order to model and simulate complex systems in different fields, and in this case, in high-performance computing system. And so just to start, what our idea is to, our aim is to model the I/O as a system through our framework, in which we have different applications that are gathered with the application monitoring and are produced by the metrics proxy. And with our frameworks, our idea is to able to define, to simulate, and doing what's so-called the what-if analysis of our system in order to understand the mechanism of the system, and also to simulate them in order to see the system behavior in different cases. So right now, so we will show you the workflow of our framework, our tools. So starting from the traces that are generated from the metric proxy, we have three main steps. The first step is the data processing. Then we have the clustering, and then the modeling step. So starting from the first step, we take our idea, so our framework will be using a Python script. It will, the traces are generated, will be filtered, will be analyzed and processed in order to have just the metrics, the indexes that we want to exploit in our model. In this case, what we want to aggregate, what we want to process is the time spent in a specific state and of a specific application, and the number of calls of that state in order to understand for each application the number of calls and the time spent in I/O computing, MPI, and so on. Then, so after the first step of processing, our idea is doing clustering. Specifically, we want to do two types of clustering. What we are proposing is two types of clustering. The first one is interclustering, where we will exploit GreatNector, which is an array package that, which is an array package that we developed this and published it this year in order to fit and cluster longitudinal data, so time series, and is particularly efficient with irregular and sparse time series, but it works well also with very dense time series, such as is this case. And so using GreatNector, our idea is to have for multiple applications the time series, so the traces of I/O computing or MP, so the indexes that we filtered from the first steps, and what we will obtain will be the so-called template application. So a number of clusters, so groups in which we will have application with similar patterns, temporal patterns, and for each clusters we will have the template application will be just the average trace characterizing the corresponding cluster. And this template application then will be exploited in the second type of clustering, so the intra-clustering, in which we will look for inside the template, these template applications, if there are similar patterns, in order to have less parameter to estimate when we want to build and calibrate our model, so in the third steps. So here we have, so this is what I'm just telling you about the fact that so we have these two type of clusterings. The first one, so just to summarize, the first one will be used to define the template application that will define and characterize different applications with the temporal traces. And the second one will be using the template application in order to have and identify similar patterns inside the template application in order to have less parameter to estimate. And then, so the last step, the main one, is the modeling part, in which we will exploit GreatMod, which is also a general modeling framework that we develop in order to build, design, and also simulate using different algorithms, simulation algorithms and techniques, complex systems, and in a user-friendly way, we can say. And the great mod is is based on a PetriNet model. So I'll have a graphical formalism that we can exploit in order to draw and design our model, and using the framework in which we have APMod, that is an array package in which we have very simple and few functionalities that we can exploit in order to derive the mathematical processes. So the mathematical model be underlying our PetriNet model. And here we have, just in order to explain you which is a PetriNet model. Here we have the formal definition, which is, in particular, here we are considering an extension of the PetriNet formulas, the extended stochastic symmetry net, and which is just, it's very simple, is a bipartite direct graph in which we have two types of nodes, the transition and places. Places represent just the entities, what we want, the state of the system, so what we want to simulate. And transition represented events may occur. So if a transition is connected by an arc to another place, it means that a specific number of tokens, that are just the number, the multiplicity of the places, can move it, so can remove it to input place and add it to output places. And so here we have also the fact that symmetrics, it means that we can add, so symmetry, we can add colors to places, transition, and tokens, which means that we can add labels, we can add information, features to our places, to our entities. And then stochastics means that we can characterize each transition with a firing delay, which is stochastic distributed as exponential distribution, mathematical distribution. So, and there are a lot of, from the literature is shown, we have shown that from also a mathematical point of view, that from this graph we can derive automatically and formally a continuous time Markov chain, which will be the model that we will exploit. And in particular, we will have what is called the model calibration, in which we will exploit the template application that we derived in the clustering step. So we will use these traces as a reference in order to calibrate the parameters, which is in our case the transition delay, so the rate of the exponential distribution, in order to have that the continuous time Markov chain, so the simulation, the traces that are generated by simulating the continuous time Markov chain will be very similar to the template application. Okay, so our template application will be exploited as reference. And our point will be to optimize the model, to training the model in order to have a configuration of parameters able to reproduce our reference application, so our template application. And then, so we can imagine that if we have different clusters, so different template applications, and we using the calibration, we have for each template application a set of parameters, and the last point is to use this configuration in order to build a system. So and simulate a system using different cases. So we can imagine to define a system characterized by two application that belongs to the first group, so the first template application, and other from other template application in order to build what is called a what-if analysis. What will be happening if we put in our system a different number of applications belonging to a different template application? And since we have already the parameters, we can simulate it, we can see what will be happening, and we can say something about the queue and the distribution of the state, the time spent on each state, and so on. So here we have our idea, so our model, our system represented by exploited extended stochastic symmetric nets, so the Petronet formalism. And I will not give all the details, but the idea is that we have 9 places, so we want to simulate the I/O, MPI, and what is called other, that is all the computation different from I/O and MPI. And we have, and also we explicitly model the queue and is connected only to the I/O computation, and the transition to the event that will occurs represent just the time on, so the event that I/O starts or end, and also for MPI and the other states. And then we have different color in order to represent a different number of nodes, different application. In our case, so are the meta application that we generated from the clustering steps, and so on and so forth. So here I will just show you a simple example of how we can exploit our framework. And so starting from, you can imagine a different number of applications that are generated by metric proxy. And here there is an example of the metric name that we will just using for our that we will use for our model in order to have just the total time spent in the state that we want to consider, and also the total number of hits, so the calls of these states, so I/O, MPI, and all other states. And now I will just show you a case study. So quantum trace generated, the trace is generated by using quantum espresso. And here there is some plot, some representation of the data that we filtered and aggregate from the tau proxy and the metric proxy, and that will be used inside the clustering steps. So in this case, we will use it just as a first step, the quantum espresso traces, and but indeed we are planning to porting also to other pilots, up to all the pilot applications. But and in this case, we generated 3 template application, as we show using GreatNector. And if we sorry, and here we have the step of intra-clustering. So for each template application, we found a different number of similar patterns inside the application. And here there is the silhouette plot that we exploit on the Quantum Espresso traces, in which are used 8 processes. And here there is the percentage of time spent in I/O, MPI, and the number of calls that characterize each class that we found inside the template application number 1, I think. And here we have the template, the parameters. So the idea that we have to calibrate the template application in order to have the model parameters for each template application. And here we have just an example of the parameter that are estimated using the 3 clusters of the first template application. And here on the right, you can see that in red we have the reference. So the Quantum Espresso trace is generated using 8 processes, and in black, the black line, it represents the average of our simulation, and the gray lines are all the traces that can be generated. So if we look at just the average line, we see that we are able, so the model that is trained on this application is able to reproduce very well the global behavior of this application. So right now, so what we have is a Markovian model based on the graphical forms in order to reproduce, so is trained and in order to reproduce the metric proxies traces, and in order to, that will be exploited to run and perform what-if analysis on the system status. So our idea is to model from the system from a high-level point of view, from a system point of view. So different application from a system point of view. And for instance, knowing which application we want to run and knowing if this application in which meta application belongs, we can simulate our model and see the system behavior and see what is generated from a performance degradation or queue congestion point of view. And what we are working right now is we are modifying our model, so the Petronet model that I show you in order to better represent the system, and also because our idea is also to integrate the extra P mathematical model because in this case we will have different application that can be run using different number of nodes or and so on. So we want to normalize our the metrics that are generated by the metric proxy in order using extra P. So right now we have just some ideas, but we are working on that. And then as you can imagine, if we have a point is that if we have already defined a template application on a lot of application, and we have a new application, so new traces, our idea is to make a classification on the ready clustering, on the ready obtained clustering. In this way, we can associate with this new application a specific parameter configuration that we have already obtained by the training done on the template application that on which we are classifying. And so I hope, so here we have everything is, so the frame that I told and I introduced you with this application is completely available on our GitHub. And if you have any questions, I'm here, but also Barbara is I think it will be happy to answer everything on in presence.
Okay. usual, I don't see any question. I don't see any question online. I don't see any raised hand here. So thank you, Simone.
Yes, just one comment. We have to update the GitLab of the project, remember?
Yeah.
So I think your tool, for example, is not linked in the GitLab. So we will need this address you publish there to put it in the web page with the Git. Okay? So send us me, Barbara, and Baptiste the link, and we will include it in
The web page.
the web page.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And I think